I cannot stand Mr. Baseball.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
I knew it.
Here we go.
Yeah, I tried to throw a little bit back at it.
Love that logo, love that jersey, love that color scheme, everything about it. Welcome to episode 71 of the None Other Sports Podcast. This is the home of sports talk for the average Joe. My name's Jason.
I'm David.
And thanks for joining us this week. David, why don't you take the lead on this? This was your topic du jour.
I just had this idea of how everybody thinks when, their team when a season ends, they're evaluate how their team did and all that for the season. Well, I just figured, who has the most championships in their respected league, and are they considered still great today, and why?
I feel like you're talking about Cowboys fans.
that could probably be in a topic.
Hashtag
as well.
them boys.
The boys. So, I mean, and this is just in any like league of itself, like even if it's minor league at that level, because some minor league teams have that long history and a championship run.
I was going to say, I hope you don't mind. I threw some minor league teams onto this list here.
No, that's perfect because that's still a championship, part of the history of what the sport is for that league.
Full disclosure, I added one of the minor league teams because of who our guest was going to be tonight, but they had some technical difficulties. So,
yeah, it happens. It happens.
Why don't we? Where do you want to start, David?
Well, I mean, not first on the list. We have, let's say, hockey, because that's first on the list that we have here. Now, the most Stanley Cups in NHL history is held by the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, they have 33 appearances and 23 Stanley Cups.
You can't knock that percentage right there.
But they haven't won a Stanley Cup in 30 years. Their last Stanley Cup was 93. So
you can't argue that they have the most wins, though. You can't
that's
argue. That's a definitive number.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no way to knock how they're not a great team, but it's the fact is, are they still great today? Because of the fact that they haven't seen a Stanley Cup win in 30 years. Now, they've been to the finals back in 2020 during the bubble, but they have not seen a Stanley Cup raised since 93. When
but that's more front office issues than it is on ice issues.
Yeah, but still, I mean, are they considered still, though, a great team despite they haven't seen that type of championship?
Well, I think it's more of along the lines of it's a great franchise.
A historic franchise is what I'd call it. Because they're part of the original six.
Even with the 30-year drought, I would still say it is a great franchise because of the fact that they have the most Stanley Cups of any other team in the NHL. Because they are an original six. I mean, there is that longevity and legacy there that you just because they've had a 30-year drought of Stanley Cups, that may not be a knock on them. It might be more in terms of the growth of the league.
Yeah, but you also have, I mean, look at the Golden Knights. They just won the Stanley Cup after coming into the season.
Literally what I meant when I said the growth of the league is that there's teams that have come in and they're competitive. It's a more competitive league than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, but also to look at 2020 when they were, or was it 2020, or when were they in the finals? 21. They were in the finals. 21. They had the team. They had everything they needed in the final to make it to the finals, but they couldn't get it done against Tampa. So is it the league growth, or is it just that it's just – because some teams can make it to the finals but can't pull the trigger and win it. Because 93 was the last Canadian team to win a Stanley Cup. They have been to the finals beforehand, like Vancouver made it in 11, and they've never won one. And they've been there, I believe, twice, I want to say. No, 3 times.
Okay, so on this
twice?
list there's 17 teams out of a 32 team league. So there's teams that have never even won one.
Well, the list I'm looking at from NHL.com, there shows 23 teams.
Hold on. Okay, still. So out of a 32 team league, there's at least 9 teams that have never even won. I get your argument, but you're not selling me on this because it's a definitive fact they have the most championships. So their 30-year drought notwithstanding, no other team has as many as they do.
No, they don't. I mean, the next one underneath them is Toronto, which is 13. And then Detroit with 11.
And Toronto's had just as much bad luck.
Yeah, so, I mean, are they still considered a great team if they can't bring home a championship in a certain... they've had that history. They have that winning history.
You're arguing team, I'm talking franchise, and I think that's where our disconnect is.
Probably. I'm
sorry, I didn't mean to hit my microphone, so any of you heard like a poof or something. That's too close to the microphone.
Because to me, looking at this and then looking at the next team in line on our list, which is the minor leagues, the Hershey Bears, they've been around for ages to begin with as well, and they have won a record 12 for the AHL, but they have won a series within, like they've won in 09, 08, 09, 09, 10. Then they won, they haven't won now till this, the current season, but they've won in this era. So is the team still considered a great team, despite they haven't won in a current era?
Again, this is the disconnect. You're talking about the team as in the current team, and if we're talking about most successful franchises, they don't have to go hand in hand. You can have a bad current team and still be a legendary franchise.
I mean, any team that's some original 6 is going to be a legendary franchise, no matter what, because it's the original 6. They've been around since the beginning. But when was...
I think you're getting lost in the weeds here, brother.
Probably, but I'm still digging through it. Because New York was original 6 team, and they didn't win until 94.
Well, see, they're a legendary franchise, but if they didn't win until 94, and they haven't won since, to me, I would say that they are.
Well, I'm sorry. Their last one was 94. Sorry, their last one was 94. They currently have.
Okay, but they only have
4 cups.
They only have 4. They only have 4 cups. I would not put the Rangers on the same level as the Canadians.
I'm just going off by currently with teams right now with the even with management. I mean, Washington won their first one in 18, and they've been there twice.
Let's see. So your headline is most championships by sport, and are they still considered great today? So your headline is most championships. Are they still considered great today? My thought is if they have the most championships as a franchise, they're still considered great today. You're not arguing.
I think what I'm looking at is
the current team.
If the franchise is continuing their championship run, continuing that championship persona.
Well, then there's probably on this list here maybe 3 teams on this list that are still competitive in a way that the others may not be.
I mean, if you look at Colorado, yes, they won it recently back in 22. Their last one was 01. but they've been there before. Is Colorado considered a great team since they came into the league in '96? They're a very competitive team, and they won championships within the eras. So are they considered a great team yet? Despite they haven't been in the league as long as, let's say, Detroit, or let's say Washington, or because Washington's been in there long. I mean, I'm not considered the Flyers a fantastic team because they haven't won a Stanley Cup since '75.
I think we need to move on to the next sport, is what I'm thinking. I think we've spent almost 10 minutes on just the Canadians. I think we need to move on.
Well, you got the Yankees, because that's baseball is our next run, and we all know how much we love the Yankees.
I don't hate the Yankees. The Yankees are not playing up to potential this year, but they are in one of the toughest divisions in baseball.
There it is.
And it is a division where even the worst performing team is over 500. And then you look at the AL Central and the top team is at 500. There's a lot of disparity in baseball. The Yankees are always going to field. The Yankees post the 1980s have fielded a lot of competitive teams, and they're always a team that can be in the mix. That said, you can't, again, just like with the Canadians, you cannot argue the overall success of the franchise. You can't. It's indisputable. They won 27 World Series.
Yeah, and also
they're an
they've
old
also,
franchise.
and their last win was in '09.
Right.
So it's still within the modern era.
It is, and they're always competitive. They're always in the hunt. They're not. This year they were in last place, and they were one of the most competitive teams in their division because that's how tight their division is. Right now they're number one in they're one game back in the wild card, and the two of the three teams in the wild card for the AL are in their division, which again speaks to how tight that division is in the AL East.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I would still consider the Yankees a great championship team yet because they've won in the modern era. Like I said, I think where I'm looking at is the teams with the modern era and the.
But that wasn't in your explanation for the topic. So my thought is, we're talking the overall franchise. And are they still considered great? Well, okay, yeah, they haven't competed.
It's been a long week, so who knows what I've been thinking when I thought this up. Who knows? It's been a crazy couple of weeks.
It's all right. Yeah, I mean, we didn't even talk about the fact that we haven't recorded them in a little over a month, but life happens.
Yeah, and that's basically why we haven't recorded, because of, stuff has come up that we just had to take care of. So, yay, fun times.
I mean, so the teams that have never won a World Series are the Rangers, the Padres, the Brewers, the Mariners, the Rockies, and the Rays. I know Mariners fans. They're very passionate. They're never going to tell you that it's a bad franchise. They love that franchise. They'll tell you that the old ownership sucked, and we all understand that. We've all been there. And you know what? The Mariners have been competitive. The Rays they've been in command of first place this year. They're competitive in spite of a lack of a fan base. The Rangers are just brutally good this year. There's a lot of teams that could make noise this season alone who've never won a World Series.
Well, the thing is, so as long as you get into the playoffs, you can do any type of damage. I mean, look at the Phillies last year. Nobody expected them to beat the Cardinals, but they did. Nobody expected them to make the World Series, but they did. So as long as you make the playoffs, that's all that matters. Because you can just change everything at that point.
And since we're doing it, since we did it For hockey, I put one in for minor league baseball. The most successful minor league baseball franchise is the Durham Bulls. 17 league championships dating back to the 1920s. Their most recent ones were in 2017, 2018, 2021, and 2022.
Damn.
Now, they did have a drought from 1969 to 2002, but in the last 20 years, they've won 8 times.
I mean, that to me is a very successful modern era, even just in general, also with the modern era. I mean, you got 23 division titles they also have had too within their, franchise.
And let's see their current affiliations with the Rays. Before that, it was the Braves. They were unaffiliated for one season. Then it was the Phils, the Mets, the Stros, the Tigers, unaffiliated again, the Red Sox, Dodgers, Reds, Yankees, Phillies, and unaffiliated from 1902 until 1902, 1913 through 1917, 1920 until 1931.
Damn.
So they won league championships as an unaffiliated minor league ball team.
Yeah, and that says a lot about that.
Granted, that was 100 years ago, but
still, I mean, to not be affiliated and just not have players who are MLB or not going to the MLB because they're not affiliated with anybody to win championships.
Unaffiliated players would get signed. Because there were players from the Portland Mavericks who were an unaffiliated minor league team in the 70s who have a Netflix documentary about them. It's excellent, called The Battered Bastards of Baseball. They had players that get signed, and they were unaffiliated. The rules were a lot different back then, is how I'll put it.
Yeah, that makes sense with that. Because like today, normally if you're affiliate, you stay with that. Whoever you're affiliate with today that's who you move up to.
Right.
Well, back then, probably unaffiliated. It's like, hey, you look good. Let me sign you to this contract. It's probably how that was back then.
Moving on to basketball, not a surprise. The Lakers and Celtics are tied at 17 each. The next closest team are the Warriors with 7, and the Bulls with 6. And the Bulls got all 6 of those in one decade.
Yeah, and the Bulls are also 6-0. The only undefeated, the Baltimore Bullets, the Sacramento Kings, the Toronto Raptors, and the Denver Nuggets are the only ones that are undefeated in the finals. But I've only just been there once, where the Bulls been there 6 times.
The most recent one for the Lakers was in 2020. And for the Celtics,
yeah, their
most recent one was 2008.
Yeah, they were in the 22 one.
Here's the thing about these two teams are so synonymous with each other for various generations and age groups. I think for us, we associate Lakers and Celtics between the 80s era and that 2000s era. You had Magic and Bird, and then you had that rivalry in the 2000s with Kobe and Shaq, and then Shaq, yeah. I think, went and played for the Celtics for a while, because Shaq, everyone seems to forget, like, Shaq bounced around a lot. Like, he wasn't just it wasn't just the Magic and the Lakers. Like, if you're a casual fan, yes, but he was with the Heat and he was with the Celtics. I even want to say he played with Cleveland for a little bit. Like, he was like a nomad there for a while.
He was with the Magic from 92, 96, Lakers 96 to 04, Heat 04 to 08, the Suns 08, 09, Cavaliers 09, 10, Celtics 10, 11, and that's when that was it.
I missed one. I missed the Suns. That's not bad for just pulling that out of my butt.
No, because I had to look that up to see. When you said, I was like, I know he was with the Suns. I know he was with the. I did not know he was with the Cavaliers. That one I did not know. I forgot about that one. I just did not know. Not just forgot, but just didn't know that one altogether. But I knew the rest. It's just I did not know the Cavaliers with Shaq.
I come through every now and then. Let me tell you.
Well, look at the Lakers and Celtics. The Lakers have the most appearances with 32, and the Celtics with 22. That's a lot of appearances, and to only have, I mean, the Celtics only lost 5 championships out of 22.
Let's just get into the rivalry here a little bit. They've faced each other 372 times over the course of the team's existences. Boston leads the all-time series 208 to 164, regular season 165 to 133, and postseason 43 to 31.
Damn.
The Lakers have beat the Celtics in 85, 87, and 2010. Those are the only finals that the Lakers beat the Celtics for. And when you want to talk about a rivalry, that is a deep rivalry. And that's what sports thrive on.
Well, that's any sport thrives on the rivalry. I mean, that's what brings the crowd. That's what brings everything to the crowd. Because it's like, yeah, okay, you want to go see your favorite team, but you know yourself, those tickets are going to be sold very quickly if it's a big rivalry. Like, look at the Flyers Penguins or Penguins Capitals. Those tickets are going to sell quick because of, one, the names.
Cubs Cardinals, Yankees Red Sox.
Exactly. I mean,
it was the A's and the Giants. I don't know how much it is on the West Coast anymore.
I mean, especially the Yankees and the Red Sox, because that's a huge rivalry right there. Because I don't know how many times I've watched them, and it's just a lot of times bad blood.
You know what would have been really helpful for this discussion if I could have found it? When I was still in school, for my statistics class, you had to have an Excel spreadsheet based project, and mine was it was all top 4 sports. It was every team who ever appeared in a playoff or a final, and it was their overall win percentage, and it was in the. I could, if I would have kept up with it, it would have been great, to keep up with it every season.
Was this high school?
No, this was college. A couple years ago when I was a grown man back in college.
Oh, I was thinking this was one of the high school classes. How the hell did you remember that?
No. When I had statistics in college a few years ago.
I missed that part. I missed that part when you
did miss that part, because that was something I literally said.
Yeah, I must have missed that part. Sorry, I was probably just reading something. But damn, no, that would have been something to keep up with on that. You're right. That would have been something.
I'm aware it's something that I should have kept up with, and I don't have it.
I was going to say, if that was a high school
thing,
it would have been amazing. I was say if that was high school, damn, I can't remember what I did in high school.
No, but so it had the win and losses and everything was based on percentages. I mean, based on percentages, the Yankees were the best team.
Well,
it was the Yankees and Canadians at 1 and 2, but it was really a 1A and a 1B based on percentages. But the reason I brought that up is because football, it's the Steelers and the Pats. But technically it's the Pats because the Pats have the better overall percentage of wins to losses than the Steelers.
I'm showing this in the Wikipedia. I'm showing the Steelers losing only 2 and have 6 wins, where the Pats are 6-5. Unless I'm missing something.
I'm just telling you what the percentages were.
Because I'm showing win percentage in the Wikipedia for Super Bowls at
Well, either way,
0.75.
they're just like the Canadians and the Yankees were. It's 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
Because they're the only ones with 6.
And there's 2 with 5, 2 with 4.
And no offense to those franchises, but I think it's going to be a while before one of them gets a 7.
Yeah, no, I feel that you'll see like the Chiefs start moving up because they've been a big team coming up, more and more. You see them more and more in the Super Bowl. Like 19 and 22, is when they've won their last 2. So you'll see them more, I feel, in the Super Bowl. So I feel that number they're gonna, with Patrick Mahomes at the helm, I feel they're gonna get to that point.
They're always going to be competitive.
Yeah, they're gonna get to that number to where they're gonna match up with. They could match up with the Steelers and Patriots easily.
Here's the Steelers did theirs over a course of time, over a longer course of time than the Pats did. It's very hard to do what the Pats did in any professional sport, especially now. I hesitate to say that any team could possibly do 6 in the next how many years, because one injury can change the complete course of a player's career and the team.
Well, look at what happened with San Francisco last year. I mean, they could have beat. I feel, yes, I'm a San Francisco fan, but I feel they could have beaten the Eagles if Purdy did not get hurt. Because then they put in the next string quarterback, which I think was their 4th.
Right.
He got hurt. But I feel that San Francisco could stay competitive to challenge to to get that 6th ring. Will they get
that
it?
Eagles
Who knows?
Defense?
Don't get me wrong. The Eagles defense was ridiculously strong. It was. I mean, it was ridiculously strong. But San Francisco did have a chance until he got hurt. But yeah, no, nothing to take away from the Eagles defense. That Eagles defense was ridiculous. You couldn't beat that Eagles defense.
And I just got to backtrack here because I did say that it's going to be a while for the Pats and the Steelers to possibly get a 7th. That's not meant as a bust. It's just looking at the fact that both teams are in a rebuild. And that's a normal part of any professional sport now. And you go through your highs, you hit your low, and you have to rebuild. That's the ebb and flow of professional sports in America.
Well, yeah, any rebuild you could have, and it could be a series of years before you even see a finals.
And let's give credit where credit's due. Both the Steelers and the Pats for the 2000s and mid to 2010s were like neck and neck. They had good quarterbacks. The Steelers had great defense. The Pats had great offense. I mean, there's a reason why both were constantly in the mix during that 10+ year run.
Oh yeah, I mean the Patriots got their first Super Bowl in 2001, their last one in 2018, and they won 6 in between. They won 6 total of that, in that time span.
Right.
Steelers in that time span won 2, 2005 and 2008. But still, I mean,
but that 2005 and 2008, that doesn't tell the whole story.
No, it doesn't.
Because they were literally always in the mix. Like them and look, I don't have a favorite football team. We all know this because of fantasy football, but my wife does. And my wife's a Steelers fan. So I've watched a lot of Steelers games. And I have a great appreciation for Troy Polamalu. That man was
he's ridiculous.
Safety.
He was ridiculous on how he played. I mean, if you want to talk about a hard-nosed player,
there's
defense,
a great clip.
It's him.
Of him literally diving over everyone.
I've seen that. That is ridiculous. The timing that he had to do that is ridiculous. Because that had to be perfectly timed for that to happen. There's no way a 1 second earlier, it's offsides. But he had that timing perfect to do that stuff. And the way he hit, his work ethic was top notch.
He was very much a throwback player in the modern game.
I'll
make an odd comparison. Very much like Chase Utley was in baseball. You weren't going to outwork them, and they played a throwback style of the game.
It was a hard knocks play the way they. Yes, I agree. Utley was like that, and the same with Palmalu. Yes, you played hard. You did not just kind of like, oh look, I scraped myself. I gotta come out. It was you hit. There was no in between.
You know who else was another throwback? J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt, yeah. Yeah, he was.
That future topic. Great players on teams that weren't always great.
There you go. Well, look at Clay Matthews.
Barry Sanders.
Yeah, he was a great.
I can't think of anyone but Barry Sanders for that. Barry Sanders.
Yeah, he
I almost said Griffey, but a lot of those Mariners teams were competitive and were just like a sea hair away from championships. So
yeah, Barry Sanders was a a beast running back. He was a beast, but yet Detroit never could have get to that point. To get him what he wanted.
Well, that's the answer was there in your response. Detroit, the lovable losers of the NFL.
Well, I thought that was the Bills being in the Super Bowl 4 years straight and couldn't win one.
Okay, so it's hard for me to call the Bills losers when they made it to 4 straight Super Bowls. Did they not win any of those Super Bowls? Yeah, they didn't. But you know what? There's a lot of teams who didn't go to the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying the Bills are losers. I'm just saying it's like the unlucky franchises of that type. They made it there 4 times.
I would say more unlucky than
and losing it altogether. Like I said, 4 straight and losing 4 straight. that's just completely unlucky. You would think out of 4 straight they would win at least 1. Because it's hard enough to win a championship in any. It's hard enough to win a championship in any league whatsoever.
It is, but on any day, any team can win. And just because you were great last week doesn't mean you're going to be great this week. And unfortunately, they faced 4 better teams on those days.
And once you get into the playoffs, you could just barely make the playoffs. Just barely make the playoffs.
And that's another thing. Some teams get hot at the right time.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Look at – well, here's a perfect example. Look at the LA Kings of, I think it was the 2011-2012 season. I remember sitting down with one of my children. At the time, they were maybe 6 months old. I forget which one I had. Of course, 6 months up in the middle of the night. I don't know how many times I've watched a hockey game that went on till like midnight, 1 o'clock, because one of my children were up. And sure enough, the Kings won the Stanley Cup that year and was an 8th seed. As long as you make the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Because it's when you get hot in the playoffs.
Right.
Look at the Phillies last year. Nobody expected them to beat the Cardinals, but they did. Nobody expected them to do what they did during last year's postseason, but they did it. If they would have won, that would have made it all the best. But
I'm used to heartache.
Yeah, so am I. But they made the playoffs, and they made a fantastic playoff run. It was a fantastic playoff one to watch. I was so just in awe with everything. During the whole World Series last year, I was actually down for work near Philly. The hotel that I was staying in constant Philly fans wrong, because you just tell by just a constant flow of Phillies jerseys coming in, checking in to the hotel to go to the games. And you just get in. It doesn't matter. You just, as long as you get in, that's where you can make the difference. As long as you can do that. And it's just, some teams, yeah, they have the unluckiness of not winning one and being there 4 times straight. You know, and that's just unfortunately how it is with championships. I mean, you could be there several times. I mean, I've been there. I've played in 3 championships and won 2. And yeah, it is a heartbreak when you lose, but still, just getting there is an accomplishment. So, I mean, yeah, this conversation has gone like many different directions where, yeah, there has been some lost communications between me and you with like the discussion of this, but that's what it is. It is what it is. Still works out. A lot of championship, a lot of historical teams. You know, I think I just mainly thought of this because when Hershey won it, when they said, you know, how Hershey winning their 12th, it just made me think of this topic.
That's fine.
But like you said, we haven't.
Well, our guest was there and had season tickets, so they would have had even more insight. But
so, I mean, it's like I said, we haven't recorded in so long because of life, but it happens. So I'm good. Are you?
I'm fine.
All right. Well, that's the end of the first half. We'll be right back.